What's going on, Loqoders? What you're about to watch is the replay of a recent live stream that I held for all of the members of Loqode School. So for those that aren't familiar with what Loqode School is, it's a completely free online school and community I created. We've got over 700 members now, which is awesome. And I created it to basically help Glide developers level up their skills and make serious money as a Glide developer. Now, as a free member, you have access to hundreds of videos, tips, tutorials, tricks, posts, everything. But I also hold a private live build session every single week where students can join the live stream, watch me build something from scratch, and kind of ask questions along the way as I'm building. So it's a great way to discover the latest Glide features and hacks, see the inner workings of my mind as I kind of tinker away, and discover things that can help you actually take your Glide apps to the next level. So enjoy the replay, and if you're interested in joining Loqode School, click the link below and I will see you on the inside. Cheers. Okay, so for those that haven't joined a live build before, basically I'll just start tinkering away on a particular thing, whatever it is. Could be a function, could be a whole app, and I will be basically just stream of consciousness explaining as I'm going what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and but it's interactive, so don't feel like you just have to sit silently and watch. If there's something that you don't understand or that you want to, you want me to explain a little bit more in depth, we can do that. And we've got Lucas here for the first time. Nice to see you, Lucas. So yeah, what I wanted to build today was an image lightbox. So I'm going to start off with a simple concept. Basically, you click an image and you get a nice full screen overlay with a black background, and you can see the image. And if we can get that up and running nice and smoothly, which I'm 99% certain we can, then what I want to do is add some like left and right kind of navigation. So we can have a full screen lightbox with navigation through certain images, which I think would be pretty cool. Like basically like Glide's carousel, but full screen with a dark background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen and we just get into the build. And if people have any questions, feel free to maybe ask it in the chat, and then Nat can let me know, and then we'll go from there. So, all right, let me know when you can see the screen. Nat?
Yes, the screen.
Okay, beautiful. So let's, I'm just going to duplicate my little starter app here. So we'll get this up and running. And the starter app is basically just everything cleared out, right? I just have a user table and then no screens, no actions, no nothing, and a bit of branding. So I think the best thing to do would be to, what's a good way to display the images? Well, we can get it up and running just in the user table, and then we'll see how that works. So what I want to do here is, this is going to be an image URL. And I'm just going to find, I'll just jump into another tab and just get an image in Google. I'll get an image of the Gold Coast, where I live.
Don't rub it in.
Well, to be fair, lately the weather's been pretty shocking. So it's kind of like me just trying to cheer myself up. So
that's fair. That's fair.
All right, so we got an image of the Gold Coast. I just pasted that in there. And so here's what I was thinking. We know that in a rich text component, we can use inline styles and that sort of stuff. So my idea was to actually just manipulate a rich text component to make it full screen with the image in it, and see if that works first of all, and then we can start diving into a little bit more complex where we're going back and forth between images. So we can design buttons and that sort of stuff. But let's start with that. So we've got the image there, and then I'm going to create the image lightbox, and this is going to be a template column. So maybe I'll zoom in one more so people can see a bit clearer. So here's what I'm thinking. Because we can render HTML in rich text components, we're just going to do some very simple HTML. So I'm going to put a div. Then I'm going to put an image. And then I'm going to close off that div. The image source is going to be equal to, let's put it here, the image. And then I'm going to replace this with the link of the image I just created. So actually that's all we need right now to render a preview of this. So if we jump here, what I'm going to do is I'll add a screen and we'll call this, I'll just call this home for now. And we want a smiley, not a sad guy. There we go. And so I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to show the image as it is, not my head, but the Gold Coast. So here's the image. Then what I want to do, and we can probably, I'll do this a bit bigger so you can see, or maybe that's too big actually. Can I make it a bit smaller? Yeah, that'll do. And then beneath that, I'm just going to render that HTML. And it should look basically the same, except no nice border radius or anything like that. But this is already a good start, right? We've got the HTML rendering the image here. And what we want to do is show it in when certain conditions are met. But also we want it to be nice and full screen and basically cover up the entire screen. So we're going to jump back into the data and we're going to start manipulating this lightbox. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some style to the lightbox. And I'm going to say, I want this to be, I want the position of this to be fixed, which basically means it doesn't care if you're scrolling or whatever, it's just going to be wherever you tell it to be. So position fixed, and I can just give it some spacing. It's going to be, we're going to put it right at the top. We're going to stretch it from the top to the bottom and from left to right. So what I'm doing here is like when you apply these I don't know what you call it, classes or parameters to a fixed element, it's basically saying how far from the top do you want this element to stretch from. So we're saying right from the top to right to the bottom and from left to right. And then we're going to add a background. And for now, I'm just going to say, okay, just give us a pure black background. So when I save that, we'll jump back here and we can see, okay, now it's actually covering everything. And it's kind of, but it's not really what we want because it's not centered, but at least it's stretching from the entire screen. So what I think we can do, and the easiest way to do this is, I may need to share my window. I'll just share, for now I'm just going to share the code. So all I've done is I right-clicked on the component, and then I said inspect element. So I might share my window just so you can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that will be more helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And I'll put this, actually, can you, if I do that, can you see that code on the side?
No.
It's not showing? Okay.
No.
Let me share the entire window. I'll stop presenting for a second. And I'll show the window. And then tell me if you can see all of this funny
We do.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, we can.
tiny
Yeah.
text, but
Yeah,
same.
yeah. It's tiny for me as well. So it's but what we want is we want to find that div that we created. So if you can see, it's going to be hard to read, but this div here, this element, you can see it's highlighted. When I hover it over here, it's highlighting that what we created, right? Now we have these kind of style tags that we've added, and we want to just change it a bit so we can get it looking nicer. So what I want to do is I want to actually change it from just a block, and I want to say, okay, display as a flex. So now it's a different type of div or element. And what I want to do is, if you're using Chrome, there's a handy little way to manipulate flex elements, and it's by clicking this little button, and it will open up a little Flexbox editor. So when I click this, hopefully you can still see that little pop-up.
Yeah, we do.
And it allows me to align items horizontally and vertically. So what I can do now is I can say, actually, let's align it to the center, and let's justify the content to the middle. So if the image isn't big enough to fit the full, which it generally always will, but for now, we're going to align it kind of like a crosshair right in the middle. So the next thing we want to do is, we don't really want the full dark background, because we want it just to be like slightly see-through. So I'm just going to click the little image, the little color, and this here is the alpha, which is basically means how see-through an object is, or a background or a color is. And so I'm just going to drag this down, and you'll see if I drag it all the way, the background is completely transparent, but we want it like maybe 80%. So I can switch it to RGB and we'll make it like 80%. So it's already looking pretty good. I think what we can try is maybe pull it above that home button, and that might be a Z-index thing we can do, although it doesn't look like it wants to. So the only thing is we can't pull it in front of this. I'm guessing that's just the way they've set up the apps. So that's all right. I don't mind if that's still visible. I think that's okay. So what we can do now that we've kind of set it up how we want, I'm just going to right click on this, copy element, and then I can close this now, and I can head back to the data tab, and I'm just going to paste it below, and then replace that hard-coded image tag with the dynamic one, and then just save it. And if we jump back, we should see basically exactly the same thing. So now what we need to do is figure out a way to conditionally hide and show this. So what I was thinking is, okay, let's just manipulate the display properties of that div. So if we jump into data, and I think what we can just do is just say, okay, let's add a column to the right. Let's call it image. I'm just going to call it, what am I calling it? Trigger, something like that. That's fine. And then what I want to do is I want to change some stuff here. So I'm just going to format this for my OCD so I don't have all these spelling error things. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate this display property, because right now flex means it's displaying and it's going to be covering everything, and we only want that at certain times. So if I come here and I say, maybe I'll just call it trigger, because that's what we're going to be replacing it with. And I'll replace it with the image trigger. So I'll copy this, and then I'll do that, and I save. I don't know what we're going to see because it's not going to be flex, so it's probably going to look okay. It's still not bad. But up here, what I want to do is if I put flex, you can see now it's back to basically what it was before. It's displaying as a flex box. And a flex box, for those that don't know, it's just a different way of basically, if you have an element, it's a different way of organizing what's within that element. So if it's a block or an inline thing, it'll kind of just go like very standard left to right. But when you do it a flex, you can manipulate what's in that box very easily. So we've got it as a flex. And what I want to do is, because rich text elements are clickable, I actually want to, when I click this, I want to close it. So I can just actually set column values, and I can set this trigger as none. So when I click this, it's going to change it from display flex to display none. So now we're back to our normal image. So that's pretty awesome. And then there's one thing we need to do is basically, when we click this image, we can just do the reverse, right? We can set column values, and we can set this as flex. So now we have a fully functioning flex box, display light box. So you can open it, you can see it full screen. It's mostly full screen. Obviously you can apply different, settings. So maybe we can say, we can give it a max height or something, because this will be quite big. So maybe with the image, we can just set some style parameters, and let's just say max width 80% and max height 80%. So I'm assuming that's going to give us a little bit of a cleaner look, especially if we're using like a really big screen. We don't want it too massive. On image though, on mobile, maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you do want it bigger.
Bob was saying if only you could make this magic work on an image carousel.
That's what I'm going to try.
and that's the same. You can give it a pattern and rounded corners.
Yes, absolutely. So we can give it some nice rounded corners. So to give it a rounded corner, all you need to do is border radius, and we can say let's do 8 pixels. And I think I'm going to remove the max width and just leave a max height, because generally the reason you want it in a Lightbox is because you want it as big as possible. So, but then we've got, I don't really like how it's rounded right to the edge. I think it needs to be slightly in. So I might remove the border radius, but you can do it if you want. So to me, that's looking pretty good. But now, as Bob said, how do we turn that into a carousel? And I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to be too hard, because what we can do is we can create some buttons. So I think let's just try that. Okay. One thing we need, but we're going to have to kind of change it, because we need obviously
We have a raised hand.
Yeah, what's the question?
Hi, Marco. Happy New Year to all of you. I might think have an idea. Maybe when you click on the image, instead of you use the none and the display, right? You can change the URL of the image so it goes to a different image. So every time you click it, you change the URL as a carousel.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is then how do you close it? So I think yeah, you could definitely
maybe the last one you can close it. You know, the last image will be the closed one, and you leave it open to it. Maybe you can add an account. So if you have 5. Let's say you have 5 images, right? So you click one time, change the URL, and add +1. And then once the number is 5, that means it's closed. So you get an extra, I think that's the idea. Well, I don't know if you get it.
No, I absolutely get it. And it's actually similar to what I had in mind. But I think instead of the image, I'm going to try and create some buttons and see if we can actually click the buttons. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that's going to work because we'll be displaying a number of different rich text box as a fixed element on screen, but it should be possible. It should be possible. So, but thank you for your suggestion there. I appreciate that.
Lucas also put a good comment about the X, so you might give it a shot.
Cool. Let me
add an X icon in the corner with HTML.
True.
That's what Lucas suggested.
Yeah. Well, if we have the ability to display multiple rich text fixed divs on screen, then actually the options are pretty limitless, and each fixed element can perform different actions. So we can have a nice little X in the corner. So long as the Z indexes are correct, right? Like if the X is behind the image, we'll only ever be able to click the image. So we need to pull it in front so we can click it. But the buttons, I was thinking we could have them fixed at the bottom. But I'm just going to keep experimenting, and if anybody has good ideas, I'll take them on board. So I'll just get a few more images. Let's copy this. And we go here. And I'll just add it from a URL. And maybe get a vertical. So we can mix it up a bit. And then one more. Where's the nice?
Want to try square?
Good try square. That looks pretty square. Copy image address.
Oh, Bob was saying he was asking about applying this technique to glide multiple image carousel.
Oh, the multiple file. Yeah, I'll tackle one thing at a time. Otherwise it could turn into a mess. That would be excellent if you could have the multi-image upload, or the multi-file. I'm sure if this works in principle, then I'm sure it's possible to do what you're saying, Bob, with the multi-image column. I don't see why not. So, but what we've got to do now is we need to have. So let's add a column to the right, and this can be the image. Let's say this is image display. And it doesn't matter if it's text, and we'll say 1, and then what we could do, I'm just going to manually add an image number for now. I know there's actually a way. If we wanted to get really fancy, we could use JavaScript, but I'd probably need ChatGPT to tell me. Basically, if we have an array of images, we could add a JavaScript column that increments, like figures out how many are in the array, assigns a number to them, and then depending on what the number is, it displays different image URLs. But for now, I think I'm just gonna call it the image number, and we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll add a column to the right here, and this is going to be images / related. And I can use a query of the images, and I'll filter to the image number, making sure it is the this row image display, and I'll limit it to 1. Oh, actually I could just use a relation, right? Why do I need a query? I guess if you had other factors, you could use that, but actually for now, just for simplicity's sake, I'll just match it to the image number. So we've got the image. This is 1, and if I change this, we get 2, 3, 4. So it's very hard to see, but this is changing. And then I'm assuming we can actually just no, we probably need to extract it. Okay. So we can add a comment and images, and then URL. So we can actually just look up the image, and I can get rid of this for now because now we're trying the multiple images, and this can be the images URL. So now we know that this is going to change depending on what this number is. And what we can try and do now is create some buttons that actually help us navigate. So I can say image previous, and I'll make it a template. And although I could actually just do this on the front end, really. It doesn't need to be a column here because it doesn't need. Yeah, what you're going to run into problems in terms of, like, if there's only 4 images and you're incrementing to 5, you might run into issues. But I just want to see if it works in principle. So I'll leave this as is. And then because this image,
Bob was saying you need to use the mod formula.
Yeah. I'll leave that to you, Bob. You're more you're more
Make
versed
image
in
number
that sort of
start with
stuff.
0.
Yeah. We'll just see if this works. So right now, the same functionality should happen, right? When I click this, it pops up, and when I click it, it goes away. But what I want to do is add some buttons using rich text. So this is going to be previous. This is going to be next. And I'm just going to make this a little div. And I'm going to say previous. And I'm going to give it some style. Background some nice colors. And then give it a color. And we'll add some padding. Make that a little bit bigger maybe. And then I'm going to align it text align center. And that should be okay for now. And what this action is going to do, I'll give it a border radius. Border radius, maybe 8 pixels or 6. 6 looks good. Okay, so that's the previous. And then I'm going to come here and this is going to be next. And then this action is going to set column values, and it's going to, no, we're going to increment the image display by -1. And this is going to increment the image display by +1. So theoretically, when I click these rich text elements, we should see this change. Which it does. But because they're big images, it's slow. But what we want to do now is, I just realized we do have to do this on the back end because we need to conditionally hide or show them. So what I need to do is,
saying,
yeah,
throw those buttons into one-on-one container.
So if I add, oh yes, into what, Bob? Oh, a one-to-one, yeah. You could, but I don't think if we, I don't think we can. I don't know if it'll recognize that it's in a container when we're doing fixed. If we put it as a fixed element, it won't care about the restraints of the container. So they need to be their own kind of thing. So what I'm going to do here is say image previous, and then I'm going to make it a template and I'll paste that. And what I want to do here is display flex. Actually, this needs to be trigger. Trigger can be replaced by the image trigger. And I'm going to duplicate this. And that's going to be next. Okay, so the problem is, at the moment, let's just, whoa, that's weird.
Wow.
Is that previous? Okay. And then this can be next. So at the moment, when I click this, they will display, but they're not going to display here because they're displaying down the bottom. So what we need to do, I can expect this, and we need to make these the same sort of like fixed. So this is going to be position fixed. bottom 0, left
Something is happening.
0, width 50%. In fact, I'll make it 2% from the left.
Bob's gotta go. Good luck.
Oh, see, Bob. Thanks for joining. And actually, we'll make it like that. So we're justifying to the center, and we'll make the width 49%, because if we're making the other one 49, there'll be a 2% gap in the middle. So if we copy element and we come back and we paste that here, and then we just need to replace this with the trigger. That's 1. And then this, we need to tweak slightly. So we need to say bottom 2, yes, but left is going to be 51% or 50%. Let's just see what that looks like. Okay, maybe we need to just slightly tweak this. Maybe make it 48. And then this button, I just inspected, needs to be maybe 40. It doesn't seem right, but I'm just going to roll with it. Copy element. Because if we can just proof of concept this, then we can tweak it and make it nicer later. Trigger. And that's going to be next. And then we save. So theoretically, when I click this, now we've got a lightbox popped up, and I wonder if we can click this. Look at that. Beautiful.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
So the proof of concept is there, like it works. We can tweak it to make it look better and obviously fix, you know, whatever's going on with that scrolling funny business. And we could also like add, like instead of when you click this, it closes, maybe we want like a little close
like
button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because maybe they're trying to zoom and then it accidentally closes or something. And we could make it look really nice. So does anyone have any questions now before we keep tinkering? Because like for all intents and purposes, it's working, which is awesome. And then we just need to figure out how to properly format it. Let me just check on mobile. Yeah, that's what we want. But you see when I went too far, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because an image 5 doesn't exist, basically it doesn't know that it should stop. So like a very basic way would be to maybe only show those elements when a certain number exists. So if I close that, and you know, we can literally just on these we could just very easily say, okay, only show this when the image display. So if it's previous, it should only display if. Okay, I need to make it a number because we can't do greater than or less than unless it's a number. So I'll change this to a number. And now we can display these elements. I don't know if it's going to override it. I'm assuming it will. But let's only display it when it's greater than 0. And then here's the problem, because we don't have a dynamic way of getting the number of images yet. I mean, we could just do a roll up of images or something like that. So you'd have to think about that a little bit more. But for now, I'm just going to see if the visibility actually works. And we're just going to say less than 5. No, 4. So if we do this. Okay, that works quite well. Although, is it still there? No, that's going to close it. Okay, previous. For some reason, this button is not clickable. So, I wonder why. If I just inspect it. So that's here. Let's just move it up to there. And need to edit that other one.
Lucas is saying maybe you can get the last image index with single value column.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely like, there's many ways to do it. Like we could just count how many images there are in a roll up, and that would be the max. And then we know that the minimum is always going to be 0. But there's probably better ways to do it, because maybe we need to like Bob was saying, it would be awesome if we could have the multi-image column and use and like show a pop-up in that. So, but I haven't really played around much with the multi-image column, so I'll have to kind of test that out. But one thing, I just want to make sure that this z-index is higher than, so the z-index of the button, z-index is basically like the depth of the element on the screen. So we always want to make sure that the buttons are higher than this image. For some reason I still can't click it. Why is that? It's still selecting. Yeah, we'll have to tweak the formatting, because if I do it on desktop, it works no problem. But it looks like on mobile, there's something stopping me from pressing the button. But it works really well. The fact that that disappears and like, you know. Okay, so we need to change that. It needs to be greater than 1. So that's the first thing we can do. We can say, make sure it's greater than 1, because this is the first image. And then we go next, next, next. And then if we click there, it closes. So that's not too bad. Another thing we would have to do is maybe, I wonder if we can disable scroll if it's open. I'm sure we can. Because when when the image is smaller than what's currently on screen, if I scroll, I'm scrolling right now, nothing's happening, right? But if I go to a long image, you see in the background, the image is going like down past.
Longer.
Yeah, so you could probably disable scroll, maybe, which might work. But the functionality is pretty good. So, yeah, does anybody want to see me tinker with anything else related to this, like anything? Or is anything unclear about what we did? I can go over and rehash kind of what we've built out. Or is everybody shy? Oh, Jamie, there we go.
Hi, man. No, I was wondering, would it be possible, so the way that you're doing the hide and show with the previous next, is it, and you obviously talk about a roll up to obviously add the amount of images that there's going to be. Would it be possible that you could have, see, I don't know if it'd be an if then else, where if it knows it's on the last image, it could then set the column value back to 0, so it just scrolls all the way through.
Yeah, you can.
And on the whole way through it.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. You can definitely do that. Yeah. It might be like a it might be a JavaScript column that does that, or Bob was saying there's a mod formula you can use. I don't remember what the mod formula is, so I'm not going to try and do it now.
That's cool. That was just popped into my head, to be fair. It's really cool, by the way. But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah, no, you can definitely loop. I've seen a few people. I've seen Darren did one recently. Darren Murphy is another glide expert. He did one recently where it was like a multi-page form, and instead of numbers, he was actually going back to the first page of the form.
Okay.
So cool. So you can't kind of get to the end of it. It'll just go back, and the same in the reverse. So if you're at 1 and you press back, it'll take you to like the last.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know it's possible. I don't want to try and do that now because it might lead down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
cool.
But,
all right, thanks, man.
But honestly, the fact that that's possible, I had a feeling the initial Lightbox would be possible, but the fact that we can actually display this as a Lightbox and click through, and the design is completely customizable is pretty awesome. Like the fact that, like, even for these, right? If we just started, if we wanted to add the border radius, like Ernesto was saying, we could do that. If we wanted to change the color of this background, we can do that. We can customize the buttons. We can add more buttons. Like, because the rich text elements can now be displayed anywhere on the screen, it's really actually very handy. Like, what we can do is we can add, let's go back to maybe this horizontal one. So we could add a little close button up here and essentially like design our own kind of Lightbox. Like if I go back to the data and I add a column to the right and I call this image close, and we make it a template, and I say let's make it a div, close div, and I'm just going to write the word close. I mean, you probably should wrap this in a span or something, but it's fine for now. Let's make it style. Position is going to be fixed. We're going to put it basically at the top right, but let's make it like top. Let's make it 2% from the top. Oh, we might have to actually change that because it might be behind the menu bar. So we'll start with 5%. And then from the right, we'll put it 5%, so it's nice and even. And we'll make we'll give it some padding. We'll just make it 4 pixels. pixels. I'm going to make the font size 0.875 rem. Border radius. So I'm just making it nice and rounded. We can make that 50%. Or actually, I think you can do pixels. If I do it 100 pixels, I think it rounds it like a pill. And then display can be, well, for now it can be block. Actually, we need to keep it a trigger, which means it's going to be flex. But then we can format the flex. So we'll make this trigger, and the trigger is going to be the image trigger. Okay, and then add another rich text. This is the close button. We make this button the close button.
Ernesto's gonna go.
Okay, ciao Ernesto, thank you for joining.
I don't think we're going live tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
you'll
next
see.
week.
We'll see him in. We'll see him in the community, I guess. But yeah, we don't have a live tomorrow, but we'll be active in the community. So I need to make this position fixed. Okay, and then background white, and we can just increase the padding a little bit, maybe. And you could obviously make this an X. We need to make it a little bit further down from the top. And then, so now we've got a nice little close button. And I can copy this, copy element, go back to the data, and we can just update it. So usually I'll put like the basics in here and then use the inspect element to kind of tweak it, just because it's a little easier to actually make those changes. Yeah. So then we're going to replace this with the trigger. Save, close that. And then we want this to basically set a column value, and this trigger is going to be none. And then on the image, we can do nothing. So when I click this, nothing happens. But if I click the close button, it closes. So now it's even more flexible, because people can, right click, open a new tab, or maybe on mobile now they can pinch and zoom. And we can go through all the different images.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because it just gives you so much flexibility. And realistically, it's not that complicated, especially if you just want one lightbox where it just shows one image. That's extremely simple. I think we did that in a couple minutes in the beginning. And then you can, get more complex with it by adding multiple images. We can have it looping if we spend enough time on figuring out how to basically loop back to the first. You could do that with an action, realistically. You could just say, instead of, you don't even have to use a column. You can just set up a custom action, right? So I think I did this with the old carousel before they released a carousel component literally the next day. I think I had an action where it's like, if it's on the last number, instead of incrementing, it sets it back to 1, and vice versa on the previous button. If it's on the first number, instead of minusing 1, it goes to the last. So that would look something like this, right? Where you, instead of this, basically you just create a new action. And then you can say, if the image display number is equals, 4, and this would obviously have to be dynamic, otherwise every slider would have to be 4. But if it equals 4, do certain thing. So this will be the else. Oh, can't do that. So this will be, data increment number, and this would be data, set column value, and then we set it as the first, right? So if it equals 4, instead of incrementing by 1, we're just going to set it back to 1. Otherwise, increment the number by 1. So that way, if I press done, and I think I can remove this. So if we get to the last image, yeah, it's reverted back to 1, right? So I can just actually keep clicking this now. See?
Only the previous button displays.
Yeah, but yeah. You would just set up the reverse scenario.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. So here,
fantastic.
Create a new action. I should be naming all of this, but I'm kind of just, going.
Concept.
Previous. So we're going to say, okay, if it's, if the image display equals 1, then we actually want to data set column values this image display 4, else data increment number a -1. I think that's what I did. If I press done, if I keep pressing previous and I get rid of that visibility, should go back to 4. Yeah, and then I can just keep cycling. So, it's pretty robust Lightbox, and like the only thing you might want to fix is like the ability to scroll. One thing, like if you really don't want that scroll, what you can do is you can say, okay, only display this when image trigger is not flex, and now you don't have that scroll problem, right? Because if I go to that big image, wherever it is here, I'm scrolling right now, nothing's happening because I've set the rest of the components on the page to kind of temporarily hide themselves. And when I click close, now they display again.
Oh,
so
cool.
if that scroll issue really bothers you, this is a quick fix, right? Because now you could set these visibility rules for the rest of the elements maybe. And now you've got something that's like full screen and it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Now, obviously you see how that close button is hidden behind there. You will have to do some
on the mobile.
Yeah, you'll have to do some adjustment. I don't actually know how this would look on mobile, like on an actual mobile, because this is just an emulation of what it would be. It's not the actual what it would look like. But yeah, that's actually it. We've done an hour. So before we wrap up, does anybody have any questions? I think it was a fairly successful live build, especially I hadn't built it before, so no questions? All right, all good.
I think it's pretty impressive. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate you all joining. It's great to have, I think we had like 14 of you on, which is awesome. So thank you all. Happy New Year, everyone. And thank you all for being a part of Loqode community. I really appreciate it. And I love that we're building this sort of community where we're all helping each other out. I think it's absolutely the way to go. And let's all level up together. So I'll see you on the next one, guys. Cheers.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.